Hello, my name is Darren Thomas. I'm the Director of Educational Research Techniques. In this particular video, we're going to learn a little bit about exactly what a vector and also what variables are inside the R environment. So as you can see here, I already have RStudio open and I already have a few things typed here into my scripting area that tells you exactly what a vector is. And so a vector, if you look at the definition right here, I hope you can see it, is a collection of things captured inside what we call a data structure that is in a single row inside R. And so I'll just give you an example here. To make a vector, you have to use a thing called a function. What is a function? A function does something inside the programming language environment. And so in order to make a function, or I'm sorry, to make a vector, you have to use the C function. It stands for concatenate, which means to combine. It's a fancy word for that. So I'm going to make a basic vector here. I'll use C, and then after you put C, you must use parentheses, because what you put inside the parentheses is what the actual vector is made up of. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You press enter, and voila, you just made a vector. But there's a catch. I made a vector, but if I want to use the vector again, I have to retype it. But of course, it will not be very practical inside any programming language or any coding environment where you have to re-input your data every single time. So what we almost always do exclusively when we're working with vectors or any other type of data structure inside the R environment is we save this data inside what we call variables, or they're also sometimes called objects. And what is an object? It's just a saved piece of information. It could be a saved vector, or it could be a saved data frame, or whatever. So now I'm going to recreate my last vector, but I'm going to save it. And I'm going to call it example. And then after I make the word example, I have to use the little, I guess you could say, what is that? Less than sign, and then the dash. And then I put my function like so. So concatenate, or the C, parentheses, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, when I do that, some very interesting things happen. First of all, when I press enter, the numbers were not printed like the first time. You can see here that they were printed the first time, but this did not happen here. Rather, instead, you saw something appear over here inside my information here at the top. This is my global environment, and so we have the name of the variable, the type that it is, how long it is, 5, because you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the size in terms of like bytes or whatever, and the values. All right, so all this information is saved for me. Now, if I type in example and press enter, I get what is inside the vector. And the amazing thing about vectors is that you can multiply, subtract, divide them, and all the numbers are changed at the same time. It's a concept called vectorization, which is very, very critical if you're dealing with large data sets or whatever, and it saves you a lot of space. I mean, a lot of processing time. So if I do example plus 5, notice how every single example or every single number inside my example variable will have 5 added to them. So 1 plus 5 equals 6, 2 plus 5 equals 7, etc. If I do example, and let's say I want to square it, again, you can see right there, 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, etc. And so this is a very efficient way to calculate information inside any kind of a programming language. Not all languages do this, of course. Of course, I can also do example divided by 5 if I wanted to, and I get numbers, etc., etc. So this is the beauty of vectors. However, this is not all. Vectors can also store words. So if I want to make another example, let's say I call it word example, I can put inside it dog. Notice the quotation marks here, and also cat. And then I save it. And now you can see a new variable or a new object has appeared in my global environment that's saved over here. It's also a character. It's the length of 2 because I have the word dog and I have the word cat. It tells me the size and also tells me this right here means character. That's what it means. The first one, for example, was numeric. This one is character. Now, of course, because these are words, these are letters, I can't do all the multiplying and things like that. It won't work. So if I do word example plus 3, I get an error message because they're not numeric. They're character. So I can't do all that. However, the point is that I can store the information inside a vector. And you can also have what we call a mixture vector. That's where you have numbers and also you have words inside it. So here I am making another one called mixture example. Concatenate. So dog and then 1. I think you have to put the 1 in quotations. No, you don't. All right, great. And so now if I print this, you can see. Now look carefully. Notice how dog has the quotation marks around it? That's correct. But the number 1 also has quotations around it. Because even though it's a number, R is interpreting the number 1 as if it was a character, like a letter A or a B or a C. So if I try to do any kind of multiplication, plus 2 or whatever, I still get the same error message. Because the number 1 was forced to be a character like the word dog is a character. And if you look again off to the right hand side here, you can see that I have my mixture example here is a character vector, basically a length of 2 because we have dog in the number 1. The size is 15 bytes or whatever, and it's also a character variable with a length of 2. That's how it is, or a value of 2, excuse me. And so that is an introduction to vectors. So in this particular video, we've learned about how to create vectors. A vector is a type of data structure that is used inside R for storing data. The data can be numeric. The data can be also characters. And one thing we did not talk about is that data can also be, Boolean, true or false, as an example. But we could look at that in a later post. And so through the use of vectors, especially numerical vectors, you can do a lot of calculations very fast and efficiency because R will do whatever you want to the numbers all at the same time when they're stored inside a vector. So we hope that this video was useful for you and that you were able to understand the basics of a vector. Thank you very much.